follows an extract from my book Fête Fatale, available from Amazon. Chapter 1, Part 2. The next morning, Emma and Primrose were walking towards the post office when they saw Henrietta taking Toby to school. The high street boasted only a handful of shops, but it was still the main thoroughfare through the village. Henrietta was new to the area and she was something of a mystery. Nevertheless, by degrees, her reserve was thawing, and she and Emma were tentatively striking up a friendship. Her air of mystery was heightened because, although she wore a wedding ring, only she and her son were ever seen in the village, and the absent husband was something of an enigma. Toby was only a year older than Primrose, and he was dark-haired and olive-skinned like Henrietta. "Hi," shouted Emma. "I'm glad I spotted you. I've been wanting to ask you if you wanted to join in helping out at the summer fete. Could you help me in hosting the cake stall? If you could help me with some baking, then that'd be even better, if you wouldn't mind too much." "Oh, hello, Emma. I'd love to join in and help. I'm more than happy to lend a hand, but I'm not sure my skills in the cake department are up to much. I'll do what I can, though." "Good. I'm glad you'll join in. Don't worry too much about baking genius. It's only the WI annual first prize I'm after, that's all." "Fancy telling me that now. I think I'd better keep out of the way if there's a competition involved." "I'm only kidding. Well, almost. There is a competition involved and some take it very seriously. It's just generally helping out and dealing with the quantity that I need. I can easily show you what to do. It's not rocket science. Perhaps I could pop around one evening. We could sort out a time to get stuck in. I'm not the only person baking and we only need to do a couple of stints, so it shouldn't take too long." "I'd like that. Any time to suit you will be fine. I better get marching now though, otherwise this little Toby terror will be late for school." "Lovely. I'll see you soon." Turning to Primrose, Emma asked if she wanted to go and visit Grandma to see if she'd recovered from a heavy session at the jam kettle with Phoebe. Beth was shuffling around in her pyjamas and dressing gown when the girls arrived. Drew was already in his studio in the converted garage just off the kitchen, but a quick call from Emma soon brought him into the lounge, and it wasn't long before he was lying full stretch on the lounge carpet with a selection of colouring pencils alongside Primrose. Emma apologised for breaking into his work time, but Beth quickly dispelled her apology, saying, "He's only doing the same thing as when he's officially working, so you see you've not disturbed him at all." A deftly aimed cushion to Beth's head illustrated Drew's opinion of the comment. "How are things going for the fete? I saw Henrietta just now. She's going to help me with the baking and on the stall too," said Emma. "That's good. It'll be a good way for her to get to know folks. Phoebe and I got our quota of jam done yesterday, and I know that Jean Barlow will be making a batch of her famous rhubarb and rose petal jam. I think that Phoebe has decided that your microwave method is quite civilised, but maybe a bit long-winded for a large batch," said Beth. "I suppose it is, but I can't face spending a whole evening making a ton of lemon curd in one go. It works for me and it does the job." "Who else is pitching in?" "As far as I know, Nicola is organising a flower stall and will donate what she can from her florist shop. Mike Simmons has also given over his greenhouse to the cultivation of prize chrysanthemums for the past few months, and he's donating some of those to the fete. I'm not sure whether I should put my origami flowers on the flower stall or on the craft stall. I presume that we'll be still making the sets of dolls' cot bedding from that roll end of quilting I found." "Oh yes, I've already made a start on them. Nathaniel was up early for the dairy the other day and I couldn't get back to sleep, so I made a start until Primrose woke up." Checking off on her fingers, Beth worked through the list of exhibits for sale and continued, "Kirsty will be selling tickets for her garden tours, providing that the weather stays fine on the day, and the horsey crowd from the stables will be offering led horse rides across the length of the field, like donkey rides on Blackpool Beach. I think they'll prove to be very popular, but I do wish that Jim's cows were still in that field instead of segregated horse paddocks. I think that cows are calmer somehow." "I don't think Primrose would enjoy a cow ride quite so much as a horsey ride," said Drew. "So you can all get off your own high horses and be more gracious." Mother and daughter groaned at the dreadful pun and, shaking their heads, swapped pained expressions. Kirsty is home today. She's taken the day off to get some gardening done to make sure everything stays ship-shape for the day of the fête. I'm going to visit her as soon as I'm changed. You can come with me and we can take Primrose too. We'll leave your dad to do some grown-up colouring in for a bit, said Beth. OK, I'd like that. I haven't seen Kirsty for ages, said Emma. Predictably, Kirsty Pepper was to be found outside in her back garden. Those who knew her well knew better than to knock on any door but march through the grate straight to the garden. If her husband Carlton was home, he'd probably be in the computer room upstairs, and it was circuitous to have him trek all the way to the front door to simply be redirected to the garden. Beth led the way through the gate and along the path until they found Kirsty in the rose garden. Straightening her back and relaxing her grip on the secateurs, she stood up to greet them. Primrose flung her arms around Kirsty's knees and then led her away by the hand to the garden bench situated next to the natural garden patch. Be careful here, Rose, there are nettles here that will sting you, Kirsty warned. Have you decided on what to include in your guided tour? Asked Emma. Yes, I think so. I've decided on what I'll talk about in each of the sections, and I've typed it onto an information sheet just in case we're inundated with visitors and need to divide into separate parties. If somebody else needs to take a party, they can just read off the sheet if they're stuck. I've bought some magnifying glasses just in case any children come along on the day, then they can go exploring for bugs and wildlife if the subject of plants gets a bit too tedious for them. Carlton has designed and printed off some tickets for admission. Perhaps Nicola could sell them on her flower stall. Has anybody volunteered to give you a hand here? Asked Beth. Jean has offered to spend most of the day here to collect tickets, but I think other volunteers will be found when we discuss arrangements at the WI meeting. How is Jean? Asked Beth. I didn't see her at the last meeting and Henrietta told Emma that John hasn't been well at all recently. How does Henrietta know that? Asked Kirsty. She's started a little cleaning job at Jean's just a couple of mornings a week, said Emma. I wish I could have a cleaner come in twice a week, though I hardly think that would be often enough, said Kirsty. Jean's really lucky she can afford it. If I had a cleaner, I'd have to tidy up before she came, said Emma. I know John's getting to grips with his diabetes. He's learning a new healthy eating lifestyle. Knowing John, he'll be super strict about it. Henrietta says he's been ill recently. I think that stress is making him feel ill and they're having to cut back a bit, not that we'd notice a difference in their budget. The stray must be telling though, as John went to see Dr. Wainwright last week. Goodness, it must be bad, said Beth. Dr. Wainwright is such a dishy bloke that most of the women won't go to him because they blush as soon as they look at him, and the men won't go because of the way the women go on about him. The end result is pretty useful though. At least people only go when they really need to make an appointment. That way nobody's time gets wasted, and if you're really ill, you can be pretty certain of seeing the doctor when you need to. Kirsty was handing a magnifying glass to Primrose and setting her off in search in the herb garden, as Beth said. What a shame, poor John. I hope they can still keep that lovely holiday home they own in the south of France. The locals there think it's really funny that in French, John is spelt as Jean, which means that they both have the same name. I like John, and Jean isn't so bad once you get past her icy reserve. I often wonder if she isn't just a bit shy and feels out of it all. She doesn't help herself, I know, but she's all right really if you give her a chance. She says that she'll definitely be at the next meeting. Will you both be going? Yes, I'll be going. We'll all need to be there as it's the last meeting before the big day. I expect it'll go on a bit later than usual. We'll get less time in the pub before we wind our way home, said Beth. Yes, I'll be there. I'll see you both at the meeting if I don't see you before then, Kirsty said. The others stood up to leave, but any further farewells were interrupted by Primrose tripping over and landing in a lavender bush. This didn't seem to bother her in the least, and not letting go of the magnifying glass, she stoically decided that this was a good opportunity to have a closer look at the herb in question. Emma hauled her out of the herb patch, and with Beth they began to walk home. For the full book of Fête Fatale, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.